and you also had found something, and it was really the threat of neurophysiology, of feedback, of using athlete or elite performance in sports and translate that into the healthcare space and surgery. So you have a huge topic, and I think you're the one who can distill it into 15 minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, Lars, the committee for inviting me. While it's Europe's most valuable medical XR Congress, I think it's also the coolest Congress that I've ever been to. And I can definitely say that. It's been quite a joy. So I'm going to talk about a concept that I've come up with called the iOS XT, or the Internet of Surgical Things. And it's basically a play on the Internet of Things, but it's really turning sensors back on the surgeon and back on the surgical team to actually enhance our performance to an optimal level through neurophysiology, electrophysiology, using EEG, HRV. Well, you'll see. I hope.
One aspect of AI in the operating room that is being developed, and it's going to be very, very helpful, I think, during that physical part, is when we can measure the surgeon. Every variable that you can think of that can be measured on the surgeon, and then you can use AI algorithms to optimize the performance, and it is being developed. You know, Richard Hart, for example, is working on some of this.
The XR world and what we do with surgery is phenomenal. It provides an awful lot, but what's really missing is embodiment and exactitude. By using EEG, HRV, electrodermal response, and all of those things, we're not looking at actionable data, we're looking at data in action, because we can change it moment to moment and teach you how to get in and stay in the zone of optimal performance. And that's critical when we're dealing with human life.
So I need to thank my son, Ethan, who did the video for me. So I want to start off with the why. I mean, June talked about it earlier. What's the why? The why is because the solution. So this is what surgery looks like. Surgery does not look like a cartoon, okay? And what is missing in surgery or in VR or XR platforms are four things. First is training in stress mitigation and stress inoculation. So we have serious game for surgeons. We have data in action, as I call it, right? It's not post hoc or ad hoc. We can change it moment to critical moment. Second, we need to use a neurocognitive approach to train for experiential dependent neuroplasticity. And the key is what I call the XR to OR moment, right? Because it doesn't matter what do we do in XR if we don't have transfer skills to be able to move from one environment to the next. Now, Lars mentioned it earlier. There's no such thing as XR reality or extended reality. We have extended reality. We have what we do in traditional sim, plus or minus AI on top of it. We have what we do in our cognitive or metacognitive training at night, just like the athlete does. And then we have the performance environment, which is the OR. Those make up real reality. And why is it important? Because this is what happens in the operating room. Okay? This is real world data from AI. Okay? Problem, distractions, errors, and events. So a group that is now in Stanford, they were originally from the University of Toronto, Theodore Grantcharov, he created the OR black box. And in a study of laparoscopic colon resections out of Toronto, what they found was in every case, there were approximately 138 auditory distractions. So I was very interested in all the talks on audio, okay? Cognitive distractions happen about 64% of cases. Stressors, significant stressors occur in 5.87% of cases. This leads to a median of 20 errors per case, or 8 events. That happens in every OR, in every city, in every state, every province, every country around the world. First, do no harm, okay? Medical education. First, do no harm, primum non nocere. It's a privilege to operate on somebody, it's not a right, okay? The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 3 million patients suffer a significant surgical complication every year due to human factor lapses in the operating room. Okay? 500,000 of those die in the immediate post-operative period. If we look at data, economic data from developed countries from 2020, 13% of all of healthcare expenditure goes towards treating harm. 8.7% of that is preventable. Okay? That amounts to about $606 billion per year. Now, 50% of complications that occur in the operating room are a direct result of the surgical intervention. And well, the technology that we have now is the most advanced that it's ever been. Keeping patients safe while using that technology is still our biggest problem. Because it doesn't matter what type of robot we have, how great the robot may be, because with every robot, there is a human that is interacting with it. We've heard that before. So the human-robotic interaction, if machine learning is showing us where during a procedure your mistake is going to happen. If we know exactly where in a robotic prostatectomy, now I'm a hepatobiliary, pancreatic, and general surgeon, and I'm also trained in liver transplant. I actually left clinical practice 18 months ago because I believe in this so much. I believe in this training and its necessity. Okay? So while machine learning can tell us where the complication is going to occur, it can't tell us how to correct that, because that's bidirectional flow, and we're going to get into that. And I want you to remember a couple of things. It takes 3 months to learn how to do an operation. Okay? It takes 3 years to perfect it. And it takes 30 years to know when not to do it. And I practiced for 25, so I still have a few more to go. Surgery is a series of small steps done technically perfect and in the correct sequence. Each step has its own beginning and its own end. It has its own focus, okay? VR, XR platforms right now, they all train this. They're all training the mind. It's not good enough. You need to train the mind to respond to the body, and the body to respond to the mind. That's the bi-directional flow, right? So what we're doing is we're integrating the central and autonomic nervous systems in the service of self-regulation and adaptability or flexibility, okay? And then finally, surgical education primarily focuses on skill acquisition and execution, leading to automaticity, okay? But things are changing. And so Canada actually is leading the way. In 2015, we started with going from the Hallstedian model of training, see one, do one, teach one, okay, based on volume and exposure, to a competency-based model, which creates certain challenges. Because now we have environments where you're not in the operating room enough, so you're not learning the technical skills, which are not a part of our normal repertoire of movements, but even more so, you're not getting that mindset mastery. And so this is where XR training has come into play. So in Canada, starting in 2015, we've gone to this competence by design model, and it can have people finishing in as little as 4 years. And when I was a senior resident, I did about 2,000 cases in my last 2 years. If they do 600 or 700 now, I'd be surprised. Okay. And so we have XR simulation. And as I've said, the platforms are phenomenal, okay? They're phenomenal. But they don't do what they say they're going to do, okay? They do not allow for this 200 to 300% improvement in skill transfer, okay? That just doesn't happen. It takes 66 days to create a new skill, behavior, or habit through the process of neuroplasticity, okay? So I'm going to argue that what we see from XR into the OR in this situation is flow of the procedure, the understanding of the surgical tools, the steps of the operation, but the actual skill transfer, absolutely not. Because the handheld devices that we have right now are woefully inadequate. Okay, there's not enough precision haptic feedback in them to be able to provide information on how the tissue is actually going to behave. And I think it puts people at risk because the trainee believes that they understand how something's going to work, and all of a sudden, boom, you've blasted through, a bone, or you've cut a vessel. And so we use robotic haptic feedback, very precise. You saw that in the video that we made. And, I think this whole, use of VR, it's critical, but it's one piece of the puzzle, because we need to be able to transfer from those 4 environments that I spoke to and be able to get into this sort of pre-performance state that we're going to talk about. Right? Because human excellence and performance is really predicated on a host of significant internal factors, some mental, some physical, right? Where grit, willpower, commitment, self-efficacy, mindfulness, they foster and lead to resiliency. But then we have full focus, distraction control, mental and physical preparedness, and then positive imagery, or motor imagery. Those all lead to constructive evaluation. Now, these represent the mental skills that channel you into a series of positive actions that make your performance real, run smoothly, and efficiently. So what are we doing? Okay, how do we develop elite performance? Well, the first thing you need is a task analysis. Task analysis, what's needed to succeed? Okay, that's the volume of knowledge and the surgical skill set. But the most important thing is the personal assessment. Do I have what's needed to succeed? And that's where what we're doing is significantly different than what anybody else in the world is doing and reported in the literature to date. And it's predicated on psychophysiology and a psychophysiologic profile, whereby we take an individual and we do an assessment at baseline, stressor, recovery. And we can tell how someone's going to behave in any given moment that way. Okay? And so while there's blacked out things here, that's because there's some secret sauce underneath there that I'm not allowed to show right now. But this is sort of what a stress profile response would look like and an EEG profile response. So we measure you in what's called a 1 Hertz bin. We don't just use the traditional band waves, which I'm going to get into in a moment. And then, we're looking at respiratory rate, HRV. Electrodermal response is a measure of emotionality. So what we're really looking at are not just skill, but the cognitive, affective, and biobehavioral aspects of performance under stress, right? Because the best skilled technician in the world, in any domain, will not achieve mastery if they can't self-regulate in critical moments. Okay? So with this, I can show this data because this is mine. This is actually my stress profile report. So if you look there, I got this big spike at 8 Hertz. I have an amazing ability at motor imagery, kinesthetic. But that spike at 8 Hertz becomes very important. Why? Because when we look at how, and this is also, I should say, this is all applied to XR, right? This is going to sit on top of XR platforms so that at any given moment, we're looking at the human factors, critical moments, data science, no technology, brain-computer interface, the internet of surgical things. Okay? Focus, bandwidth theta 4 to 7 Hertz, right? That's the same as in a child with attention deficit disorder. Next you go from alpha, emotional, sort of 8 to 12 Hertz. Then we have SMR. SMR is this really small band between 12 and 15 Hertz. Imagine a cat just before it pounces. Okay? That's readiness to perform. And then we have, the low beta, mid beta, and high beta, which is negative self-talk, intensity, try too hard. High beta, disorganized thinking, a busy brain. And really what happens is you can't just train everybody in the traditional band waves. Because again, if we go to alpha, 8 Hertz to 12 Hertz, if you train everybody the same, you're going to send some people off the reservation, okay? Because I have an 8 Hertz dominant spike. That means in practice, I look like I'm out to lunch because I'm bored. Like it's not challenging me. The 12 Hertz individual, in practice, they look like they're going to be an Olympic champion. But you put each of us into a competition, and the 8 Hertz individual rises, and they perform like the 12 Hertz individual, they crumple. And so by using neurofeedback and biofeedback, you can teach the 8 Hertz individual when 8 Hertz is beneficial and how to use it, and similarly the 12 Hertz when it's beneficial and how to use it, and then tune them into their own neural sweet spot so that they can perform in any given situation. Okay? Now the key to it though is you have to train somebody first to get to this pre-performance state, But then you have to learn how to perform, regardless of how you feel in this pre-performance state, which is a very real aspect of life. You're driving into the hospital in the morning, you feel like $1,000,000. Somebody cuts you off, you end up late, the OR is calling for you, they're screaming because they want to put your patient to sleep, you're going to be behind, all of a sudden that's costing money, because in the US, I'm from Canada thankfully, but in the US, a minute of OR time is $100. Okay. Deliver practice and intention is really the 2 minutes. Yeah, I can do that. All right. Deliver practice and intention are important, and this is really just looking at motor imagery, which is a huge part of what we're doing as part of the Internet of Surgical Things, because we can measure it. And when we're looking at imagery, it's quite important, because what most people look at is the where, the when, the why, the what, and the how. We look at the who, because each one of us has our own abilities in attention, memory, arousal, perception, and our personality. So attentional focus is the first thing we have to achieve. Once you've achieved attentional focus, then distraction control. That's that 138 times a case. Distraction control becomes the key to elite, consistent elite performance. Why is this important? Because we go from moment to moment to critical moment. Life-threatening hemorrhage happens just like that. And you need to be able to get in and stay in the zone of performance where you can deal with this. One of my mentors used to say, what's wrong with this operation? The answer is, it's going too well. Because when it's going too well, the mind begins to wander. So this is what we're putting on top of XR, okay? I'm just about done, okay? We work as teams, so it's not just for the surgeon, it's for the whole team. Because while Kimi Räikkönen is getting all the money and all the glory, the person changing the front tire right there is just as important, because the center of his world revolves around what he needs to do, or she needs to do, in order for Kimi Räikkönen to get out there quick. And the difference is 0.03 of a second between a good stop and a bad stop. That's the same as life-threatening hemorrhage, okay? What happens? I mean, we've heard people talk about shortcuts in the brain. It's actually called neuroplasticity. Okay? The brain assigns a set of neural resources for a specific task, frees up energy in the brain for other tasks. Okay? So we can take in information, download it, make our critical decisions, these soft skills, I call them power skills, right? And then still be able to perform our technique. Okay? And efficiency equals performance. We heard just about a few minutes ago about Daniel Kahneman, thinking fast and slow, control of attention. System 1, fast, automatic, intuitive. Our skill, automaticity. Slow, orderly, deliberate, taking in information, processing it, and practicing, and being able to still perform our skill. This can sit on top of your ultrasound platform for sure, when they're doing TEs and all of that. So I'm gonna finish up where I started. This is the solution that I believe every XR simulation platform requires, so that we can learn how to optimize our performance in the moments where it matters most, when human life's on the line. Thanks.